110 Maturity Quotes to Grow Up in Your Life. Maturity is the state of reaching a stage of full or advanced development. It is the state or feeling of being fully developed in the body or mind. Maturity is always a situation in the life of a human being where there is often a sense of responsibility. You slowly start to realize how to take responsibility for yourself, your family, and the people around you. It improves the ability to make good decisions and brings stability to your life with wise choices. Here are some inspirational and learning maturity quotes that will help you to take responsibility for yourself and your relationship. Quotes about maturity. 1. Clouds come floating into my life, no longer to carry rain or usher storm, but to add color to my sunset sky. Rabindranath Tagore. 2. Maturity is often more absurd than youth and very frequently is most unjust to youth. Thomas A. Edison. 3. The mark of the immature man is that he wants to die nobly for a cause, while the mark of the mature man is that he wants to live humbly for one. J.D. Salinger. 4. Maturity is a bitter disappointment for which no remedy exists unless laughter could be said to remedy anything. Kurt Vonnegut. 5. Maturity is only a short break in adolescence. Jules Pfeiffer. 6. This goal can and must be attained in this life. But even if this does not happen, remember that he who has found the way once always returns to this world with an internal maturity that enables him to continue his work. Gustav Meyrink. 7. Most parents have long understood that kids don't have the judgment, maturity, impulse control, and insight necessary to make complicated lifelong decisions. Brian Stevenson. 8. I'm aware that I'm now a role model for younger players. I bring more maturity to practice. It's more of a work environment to me, where I consciously work to get better each day. Tobin Heath. 9. I experienced no conflict between my mother and father, which was entirely due to my mother's compassion, intelligence, and maturity. Christy Hefner. 10. Universities can teach maturity. They can teach teenagers how to be adults, and that means to function outside a clique or a tribe. Russell Smith. 11. To be mature, you have to realize what you value most. Not arriving at a clear understanding of one's own values is a tragic waste. You have missed the whole point of what life is for. Eleanor Roosevelt. 12. Maturity, one discovers, has everything to do with the acceptance of not knowing. Mark Z. Danielewski. Best quotes about maturity. 13. There are some questions that shouldn't be asked until a person is mature enough to appreciate the answers. Anne Bishop. 14. Grass that is here today and gone tomorrow does not require much time to mature. A giant oak tree that lasts for generations requires much more time to grow strong. Henry T. Blackaby. 15. The value of marriage is not that adults produce children, but that children produce adults. Peter de Vries. 16. Many things become clearer with the perspective of maturity gained. Jacqueline Patricks. 17. A person's readiness to date is largely a matter of maturity and environment. Miles Monroe. 18. You simply don't get to be wise, mature, etc., unless you've been a raving cannibal for 30 years or so. Doris Lessing. 19. It must be wonderful to be 17 and to know everything. Arthur C. Clarke. 20. Whenever a theory appears to you as the only possible one, take this as a sign that you have neither understood the theory nor the problem which it was intended to solve. Karl Popper. 21. A man should be able to hear, and to bear, the worst that could be said of him. Saul Bellow. 22. We are never more fully alive, more completely ourselves, or more deeply engrossed in anything than when we are at play. Charles Schaeffer. 23. We don't wish for suffering, but once we understand how to be in relationship with it, it becomes the means through which we mature as loving and wise people. Thanissaro Bhikkhu. 24. Maturity, the way I understand it, is knowing what your limitations are. Kurt Vonnegut. Maturity in relationship quotes. 25. Falling in love, you remain a child, rising in love, you mature. By and by, love becomes not a relationship, it becomes a state of your being. Not that you are in love, now you are love. Osho. 26. Maturity is produced through relationships and community. Rick Warren. 27. Real love ought to be more like a tree and less like a flower. Maya Robarts. 28. When you mature in your relationship with God, you realize how suffering and patience are like eating your spiritual vegetables. Chris Jamie. 29. I dream of a love in which two people share a passion to search together for some higher truth. Perhaps I should not call it love. Perhaps its real name is friendship. Irvin D. Yalom. 30. When genuine love is released in a relationship, God's presence is manifest. Peter Scazzaro. 31. Relationships is not a game of amateurs, is what people say. But they begin to foster between amateurs and become a reason to make them matured grown-ups. Sujit Lalwani. 32. The ability to get in touch with your sensuality is based on your self-awareness and emotional intelligence, and that ultimately becomes the true measure of your maturity. Lebo Grand. 33. I don't care that you are not a young twink. I like to think that I'm picking you at your peak. Alicia Nordwell. 34. You become a man not when you reach a certain age, but when you reach a certain state of mind. Habib Akand. Life maturity quotes. 35. Avoiding maturity is, for many men, not just a cute hobby, but a life's work, often handsomely rewarded in the infantile popular culture of the West. Michael Leunig. 36. Maturity is the ability to reap without apology and not complain when things don't go well. Jim Rohn. 37. Learning lessons is a little like reaching maturity. You're not suddenly more happy, wealthy, or powerful, but you understand the world around you better, and you're at peace with yourself. Learning life's lessons is not about making your life perfect, but about seeing life as it was meant to be. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. 38. Age is the acceptance of a term of years. But maturity is the glory of years. Martha Graham. 39. To make mistakes is human, to stumble is commonplace, to be able to laugh at yourself is maturity. William Arthur Ward. 40. It takes a certain level of maturity to get hit and get knocked down and get back up. Jamal Crawford. 41. Maturity is achieved when a person accepts life as full of tension. Joshua L. Liebman. 42. When you become of age, you can sometimes feel like you have to force maturity. I've been lucky that I didn't feel that I had to try. Growth is something that is going to come, you just need to sit back and let it happen naturally. Amarian. 43. Maturity is when you stop complaining and making excuses in your life. You realize everything that happens in life is a result of the previous choice you've made and start making new choices to change your life. Roy T. Bennett. Best maturity quotes about life. 44. Nobody smart knows what they want to do until they get into their 20s or 30s. Michael Crichton. 45. Age brings maturity, experience ripens it. Vimal Uthathan. 46. Everyone should have the experience of getting lost in life at least once. Part of growing up is learning how to tolerate uncertainty, and when the time is right, to find or create a new path for yourself. Cole Todd. 47. Maturity is the moment one regains one's innocence. Marty Rubin. 48. A man is at his youngest when he thinks he is a man, not yet realizing that his actions must show it. Mary Renault. 49. Everyone grows, but not everyone becomes mature. Kemi Soganal. 50. Mixing old wine with new wine is stupidity, but mixing old wisdom with new wisdom is maturity. Amit Kalantri. 51. Then you must reconcile yourself to the fact that something is always hurt by any change. If you do this, you will not be hurt yourself. Roger Zelazny. 52. One of the signs of passing youth is the birth of a sense of fellowship with other human beings as we take our place among them. Virginia Woolf. 53. Maturity and experience are part of my liberation. Alicia Keys. 54. Age is relative. Experience is relative. And I think often intensity is confused with maturity. Laura Marling. 55. Age is a very high price to pay for maturity. Tom Stoppard. 56. You cannot be a winner without maturity and consistency. Marco Silva. 57. Obviously, the young dancers lack a certain air of maturity. Mikhail Baryshnikov. 58. You gain a certain maturity from being a nurse in a cancer ward. Bonnie Hunt. Growth and maturity quotes. 59. I think part of maturity is knowing who you are. Rob Lowe. 60. Maturity, be able to stick with a job until it is finished. Be able to bear an injustice without having to get even. Be able to carry money without spending it. Do your duty without being supervised. Ann Landers. 61. I believe that maturity is not an outgrowing, but a growing up, that an adult is not a dead child, but a child who survived. Ursula K. Le Guin. 62. Problem solving becomes a very important part of our makeup as we grow into maturity or move up the corporate ladder. Zig Ziglar. 63. I have lived a great deal among grown-ups. I have seen them intimately, close at hand. And that hasn't much improved my opinion of them. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. 64. maturity is a high price to pay for growing up. Tom Stoppard. 65. You play more games, you get more mature, and you get smarter. Yadier Molina. 66. Sometimes problems don't require a solution to solve them, instead, they require maturity to outgrow them. Steve Mirabile. 67. You are never too old to become younger. Mae West. 68. There are truths you have to grow into. H.G. Wells. 69. Maturity, knowing where you're crazy, trying to warn others of the fact, and striving to keep yourself under control. Alain de Botton. 70. The greatest day in your life and mine is when we take total responsibility for our attitudes. That's the day we truly grow up. John C. Maxwell. 71. Maturity is about challenging yourself and improving. And then taking that experience to help others. Sem Tulku Rinpoche. Love maturity quotes. 72. Maturity is wanting nothing but what we see with the purity of our hearts. Hugh Prather. 73. A truly great book should be read in youth, again in maturity, and once more in old age, as a fine building should be seen by morning light, at noon, and by moonlight. Robertson Davies. 74. True maturity is only reached when a man realizes he has become a father figure to his girlfriend's boyfriends, and he accepts it. Larry McMurtry. 75. There are many forms of love as there are moments in time, and you are capable of feeling them all at different stages of your life. Shannon Alder. 76. Love is like a friendship caught on fire. In the beginning a flame, very pretty, often hot and fierce, but still only light and flickering. As love grows older, our hearts mature and our love becomes as coals, deep burning and unquenchable. Bruce Lee. 77. Like some wines, our love could neither mature nor travel. Graham Greene. 78. Immature love says, I love you because I need you. Mature love says, I need you because I love you. Eric Fromm. 79. The mature response to the problem of existence is love. Eric Fromm. 80. There are truths you have to grow into. H.G. Wells. 81. Mature love is loving, not being loved. Irvin D. Yalom. Emotional maturity quotes. 82. I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity. Albert Einstein. 83. I don't think people change. I think they definitely mature. But I think the essence of what I am today is the same as when I was 5 years old. It's just maturity. I've become a healthier, fuller expression of that essence. Ricky Williams. 84. Caring, about people, about things, about life, is an act of maturity. Tracy McMillan. 85. Acting is the expression of a neurotic impulse. It's a bum's life. Quitting acting, that's a sign of maturity. Marlon Brando. 86. I went from adolescence to senility, trying to bypass maturity. Tom Lehrer. 87. Youth ends when egotism does, maturity begins when one lives for others. Hermann Hesse. 88. It is so many years before one can believe enough in what one feels even to know what the feeling is. W.B. Yeats. Spiritual maturity quotes. 89. One of the greatest indicators of our own spiritual maturity is revealed in how we respond to the weaknesses, inexperience, and potentially offensive actions of others. David A. Bednar. 90. Maturity is the ability to think, speak, and act your feelings within the bounds of dignity. The measure of your maturity is how spiritual you become during the midst of your frustrations. Samuel Ullman. 91. Maturity is achieved when a person postpones immediate pleasures for long-term values. Joshua L. Liebman. 92. As you grow older, maturity naturally comes to you. And it shows on your face. It's true not only about looks, but your maturity should also reflect in your performances. Ormela Matondakar. 93. Don't allow old traditions to become permanent mental scripts for managing your life in the present. Reason, you will not be able to transform yourself to think differently and be better as you grow with age and maturity. Darren L. Johnson. 94. In the end, it's a mental maturity to let your best come out. Lindsey Vonn. 95. I guess real maturity, which most of us never achieve, is when you realize that you're not the center of the universe. Catherine Patterson. 96. Part of spiritual and emotional maturity is recognizing that it's not like you're going to try to fix yourself and become a different person. You remain the same person, but you become awakened. Jack Cornfield. 97. I just want to be remembered as a person who loved God, who served others more than he served himself, who was trying to grow in maturity and stability. Mike Yaconelli. 98. The achievement of maturity, psychologically speaking, might be said to be the realization and acceptance that we simply cannot live independently from the world, and so we must live within it, with whatever compromises that might entail. Paul Murray. 99. It takes a while for the revelry to turn to reverence, and much repetition of truth to eventually turn young zeal into habitual channels for good. Elizabeth Elliot. 100. For us lads of 18, they ought to have been mediators and guides to the world of maturity, the world of work, of duty, of culture, of progress, to the future. Eric Maria Remarque. 101. Spiritual maturity is not reached by the passing of the years, but by obedience to the will of God. Some people mature into an understanding of God's will more quickly than others because they obey more readily, they more readily sacrifice the life of nature to the will of God. Oswald Chambers. 102. Confidence comes with maturity, being more accepting of yourself. Nicole Schertzinger. Woman maturity quotes. 103. When I became a mature woman, I put both feet firmly on the side of maturity. Victoria Principle. 104. To live with fear and not be afraid is the final test of maturity. Edward Weeks. 105. Maturity is achieved when a person accepts life as full of tension. Joshua Loaf Liebman. 106. A matured woman is, therefore, a responsible woman irrespective of her age, status, and qualification. Ego jakinma eni. 107. Maturity starts with the willingness to give oneself. Elizabeth Elliot. 108. In every man and woman there are three phases of life more descriptive of the soul's inner journey than our childhood, maturity and old age. It can't happen to me. I can overcome it. I accept it. David Zindel. 109. Imagine the blessings a young woman could have as she is going through the early stages of maturation, to know that she has the privilege of having angels, seen or unseen, accompany her, know her, and speak to her. Barbara Morgan Gardner. 110. A man and a woman can't be friends if one or both of them are deadlocked in immaturity and fear. Without spiritual maturity, we are back to catering to immature notions of sexuality. Amy Bird. I hope you liked the above maturity quotes. Don't forget to mention the best line that you liked most from the above lines in the comment box below.